Welcome to the Sunday Painter, the channel about everything painting. I've hand-picked videos from YouTube, from how to paint to making money from your art, with advice from seasoned artists. Check out my channel, click on the video link under the top banner, to see all my educational videos, may save years of struggle. Today we are going to talk about Berthe Morisot. She was just as good an artist, as the other rebels who formed the Impressionist movement. Because she was a female artist, Morisot's paintings were often labeled as being full of feminine charm by male critics, for their elegance and lightness. Here is a quote from Morisot: "I don't think there has ever been a man who treated a woman as an equal, and that's all I would have asked for I know I'm worth as much as they." Stay around to the end and hear my thoughts, and the first time I met Berthe. An interesting story. Come and improve your art and expand your knowledge. Become a part of the Best Art channel and leave a happy comment, or let me know if there is an artist you would like to learn about. I also have this cool tee created just for this lesson. Check out this wearable art with other creative designs. The link is in the description below the video. See you on the other side.
The Sunday Painter.
Berthe Marie Pauline Morisot, French, 1841 to 1895, was a painter and a member of the circle of painters in Paris who became known as the Impressionists. Morisot's wealthy upbringing meant that she was not as reliant on making money from her paintings in the way that many of the other Impressionists were. Morisot's work was firmly Impressionist in style for much of her career. There are some hints of a progression to Post-Impressionism later in her life. Let's take a look at what makes a work impressionistic. Impressionism is a 19th-century art movement characterized by relatively small, thin, yet visible brushstrokes, open composition, emphasis on accurate depiction of light in its changing qualities, often accentuating the effects of the passage of time, ordinary subject matter, inclusion of movement as a crucial element of human perception and experience, and unusual visual angles. Impressionism originated with a group of Paris-based artists whose independent exhibitions brought them to prominence during the 1870s and 1880s. She was born January in Bourges, France, into an affluent bourgeois family. Her father, Edmé Tiburce Morisot, was the prefect, senior administrator, of the Department of Cher. He also studied architecture at École des Beaux-Arts. Her mother, Marie Josephine Cornélie Thomas, was the great-niece of Jean-Honoré Fragonard, one of the most prolific Rococo painters of the Ancien Regime. She had two older sisters, and a younger brother. The family moved to Paris in 1852, when Morisot was a child. It was commonplace for daughters of bourgeois families to receive an art education. As art students, Berthe and Edme, her sister, worked closely together until 1869, when Edme married Adolphe Pontillon, a naval officer, moved to Cherbourg, and had less time to paint. As a copyist at the Louvre, Morisot met and befriended Manet and Monet. By the introduction of Manet, Morisot was married to Édouard's brother, Eugène Manet, in 1874. On November 14, 1878, she gave birth to her only child, Julie, who posed frequently for her mother and other Impressionist artists. Correspondence between Morisot and Édouard Manet shows warm affection. Morisot often posed for Manet, and there are several portrait paintings. Once she made a decision to pursue art, her family did not stand in her way. Morisot experimented with various paintings ranging from landscape to seascape, but her favorite work was on domestic life. She developed a personal style in the 80s using pale colors to paint women and children. She waged a war against limiting nature of society. Social expectations and limitations on women, especially those in the field of art, got little respect for their hard work. In the 19th century, women were viewed as domestic beings who should exercise their authority only at home. A woman was defined by her maternal capacity, and for any woman to receive respect, she had to exhibit motherhood. The critic Gustave Geffroy said the forms are always vague in Berthe Morisot's paintings, but a strange life animates them. The artist has found the means to fix the play of colors, the quivering between things and the air that envelops them. Pink, pale green, faintly gilded light sings with an inexpressible harmony. Morisot's energetic brushstrokes elegant, refined and delicate, even while they called the dabs of pure colors lively and vigorous. Now, such a gendered response is ludicrous, But at the time, even her fellow artist Edouard Manet did not initially regard Berthe and her sister Edma as professionals, saying, "The girls are charming. It is really too bad that they're not men." Still, as women, they conserved the cause of painting by marrying academicians. Other Impressionists also portrayed fashionable women in the home and garden, but unique to Morisot were her paintings of paternity. In the 1890s, she replaced the bright, broken brushstrokes of Impressionism with undulating, fluid streams of acidic brushwork. As time went on, she no longer strove to capture ephemeral effects of light in the visible world through pastel hues. Instead, she explored interior emotions using a saturated palette. Morisot's work was seen as cutting-edge modern but also heir to the tradition of French painting, which provided an entree for how to discuss it. Critics didn't have a way to explain her unbelievable originality and daring. Her light brushstrokes often led to critics using the verb effleurer, to touch lightly, brush against, to describe her technique. She wrote in her diary, "I like either extreme novelty or things of the past." The outer edges of her paintings were often left unfinished, allowing the canvas to show through and increasing the sense of spontaneity. After 1885, she worked mostly from preliminary drawings before beginning her oil paintings. She also worked in watercolors and pastel simultaneously, and sketched using various drawing media. Morisot creates a sense of space and depth through the use of color. Although her color palette was somewhat limited, her fellow Impressionists regarded her as a virtuoso colorist. The luminous quality of her paintings was highly praised for its faint progressions between the light and the dark shades, a skill she of course learnt from her teacher Corot. Berthe used faint, glistening strokes of paint that were lightly brushed onto the canvas and left a luminescent sheen, and she always favored the use of watercolor paints and pastels. She typically made expansive use of white to create a sense of transparency, whether used as a pure white or mixed with other colors. Responding to the experiments conducted by Manet and Edgar Degas, Morisot used barely tinted whites to harmonize the paintings. Like Degas, she played with three media simultaneously in one painting: watercolor, pastel, and oil paints. In the second half of her career, she learned from Renoir by mimicking his motifs. Berthe's work are full of light, bright colors, and the brushwork is disjointed and varied. She accurately represented natural light by applying a large range of colors to the canvas with petite brushstrokes. Although up close her paintings become indistinct, from a distance the works are unified with colors that merge together. Harsh lines are removed by a lack of contrasting tones. Now, as I promised at the beginning of the video, I'll tell you the story of the first time I met Morisot. Well, it started by going to an Impressionist show, and as I walked in, there she was. The very first painting. It was this painting of a reclining Berthe by Manet. Very small but very intriguing. I stared at her while she stared back. I do have to say Manet is one of my favorite artists. This painting blew me away. Simple and direct, and I will have to say moving. I wanted to take this painting home and keep it forever. I studied her for a while and went into the show. While looking at the works in the show, the painting kept coming back in my mind. I went and spent more time at the end with her just to get to know her better, and it was worth it. In this show, Berthe had many works. They seem unfinished to me. While standing close, the movement of color and brushwork was direct. I did not feel a connection as I did with other works in the show until I viewed them across from the other side of the room. The works danced and glow with a beauty that is hard to describe. If you ever get a chance to see her work, step back to the other side of the room to see the true genius of her talent. To learn from Morisot, I would say, capture the moment. You don't have to overwork the painting to show this moment to others. Minimize tones and flattening out planes, finding the essence of light with feeling. Having the main idea, pushing everything else into a faint standby actor, to tell the immediate story. Simple and direct. Morisot died on March 2, 1895, in Paris, of pneumonia contracted while attending to her daughter Julie's similar illness, and thus making her an orphan at the age of 16. She was interred in the Cimetière de Passy. As with all things, there is much more to Morisot. Hope this piques your interest to find out more. Check out the link in the description below for the Sunday Painter's Art Tee, which helps support this channel and will look cool on you. Subscribe and paint on, my friends.